Here we are. It's Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and welcome to Love Fraud Live. I'm Donna Andersen, author of lovefraud.com, and this is the YouTube show where you learn how to spot sociopaths, get them out of your life, and recover from the damage that they cause. So, here are today's questions. Do you feel like you're a sociopath magnet? And does it seem that every time you get into a relationship, the person ends up being a manipulator or an abuser? I've heard from many people who realize that they've been involved with multiple sociopaths. They've had so many bad experiences that they are afraid they will continue to attract sociopaths in the future. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Of course, this is a live streaming show, and after my short presentation, I will answer any questions that you may have. So please go ahead and send your questions by chat as we go along. Okay, so let's get started. A few weeks ago, I received an email from a love fraud reader, and she said that she was involved with a narcissist back in 2013, whom she described as a complete nutcase. After a year of insanity, she went no contact with the guy. Congratulations for doing that. But this reader also said that her father is a narcissist and she attracts that kind of person. So she's been single for years because it seems that everyone she's attracted to ends up having a personality disorder. So she's afraid to get involved. She asked me that I address this issue, so that's why we're doing this show tonight. First of all, I want to say to this reader that you are certainly not alone. I've done hundreds of personal consultations with people who were romantically involved with sociopaths. And of course, by a sociopath, I mean someone who could be diagnosed with antisocial, narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, or psychopathic personality disorder. Now, when I talk to clients who suspect that they have disordered partners, I explain that sociopaths target our vulnerabilities. That's how they latch onto us. And so I ask if they can think of anything in their past that may have created a vulnerability. Well, many times, my clients realize that either their mother or their father was disordered. So here's what you need to know. Growing up with a narcissistic or sociopathic parent is very damaging. It can lead to becoming involved with other damaging relationships later in life. And you don't have to take my word for this or just the anecdotes that I relayed to you. Psychology researchers have written about this in scientific papers. In fact, the Love Fraud team, including Dr. Leanne Leadham, Marianne Glynn, a licensed clinical social worker, and myself, we just published a scientific paper in the Journal of Counseling and Development. The paper is about effective and ineffective interventions for abuse survivors. And in this particular paper, we cited the research of some other scientists stating that up to 50% of women who endured abusive relationships had a history of childhood trauma. And another paper that we cited found that childhood trauma increases the risk of partner abuse by 9% in women and 10% in men. So, what do I mean by childhood trauma? You're certainly aware of children who are physically abused or neglected and how they suffer, tremendous suffering. But even when there is no physical abuse, disordered parents are emotionally and psychologically damaging. How do they do it? Well, they make promises to their kids and then deny that the words were ever spoken. Or no matter what the kids do, the parents tell them that they are wrong. The parents may criticize, shame, and embarrass their children, and then they keep changing their demands and expectations. As a result, children with disordered parents become totally focused on anticipating their parents' demands and feel like they can't trust themselves and they can't trust their own perceptions. Now, make no mistake, this is a form of trauma. So, did you experience this? If you did, please understand that growing up in this type of an environment causes psychological and emotional injuries. And these injuries create vulnerabilities in you, vulnerabilities that sociopaths, narcissists, psychopaths, borderlines, all these disordered personalities, vulnerabilities that they exploit. So you may have heard that a child of a sociopathic or narcissistic parent becomes involved with disordered individuals as an adult because the drama and tension of these relationships feels normal. If that's what you grew up with, so that's what you think the relationships are. I imagine that there's some truth to this, but I also think that something else is going on. Now, as I said, when you have disordered parents, their treatment of you causes emotional and psychological injuries. The problem, of course, is that you're a kid, you're a child, and you may not know that you're being injured. Or even if you do know that you're being injured, for example, if your parents are physically hurting you, beating you, you can't do anything about it. All you can do is figure out how to survive. And one of the ways that you learn to survive is becoming really tuned in to your parents' moods so that you know when to placate them or, if necessary, run and hide. Anyway, you have these emotional and psychological injuries which are never addressed. They just stay inside you and fester. And even if you had a normal childhood with loving parents, you can still have emotional injuries. We all get knocked around in life. We all have bad experiences. So perhaps if you had a bad relationship as a young adult, or for that matter, any type of involvement at any time in your life, you can carry the pain of the experience for a long time afterwards. I mean, we all do this. So here's the basic problem. We are not taught how to deal with emotional wounds or betrayal. I mean, really, the standard advice is to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and put yourself back out there. Don't wallow in self-pity. Get on with your life. So if we do this, what happens? We're all the walking wounded. We all have invisible psychological and emotional injuries that are never addressed. And guess what? These old emotional and psychological injuries, they are the sociopath magnets. Sociopaths just seem to be able to sniff out where we were hurt as children, as young adults, or any time during our lives. They find our vulnerabilities, and that's exactly where they set their hooks. They promise to make the pain go away, and to make all of your dreams come true, and to be the partner or parent that you never had. So here's what is important for you to understand. You, meaning your identity and your personality, you are not a sociopath magnet. Rather, it is your old internal injuries, the psychological and emotional injuries, that are the magnets. Okay, so I'm almost finished with the formal part of this presentation. If you have any questions, please go ahead and send them by chat, and I'll answer. Oh, I see we have quite a few, but I'll answer them shortly. Anyway, the good news is that you do not have to change who you are in order to stop being a sociopath magnet. What you do need to do is heal your old wounds. So how do you do this? Well, we have lots of information to help you on lovefraud.com. There's lots to read, and there's also multiple webinars on understanding how you got into this situation and how you can recover. I've added some links in the description below. Healing involves understanding what happened and processing the pain of your experience. It does take time and effort, but working on your recovery is definitely worth it. By the way, If you share children with a narcissist or sociopath, you probably worry whenever you send them to spend time with your ex, especially now that you have a better understanding of how invisible injuries of childhood may play out later in life. So tomorrow, Love Fraud is offering a webinar called Empowering the Child Who Must Spend Time Alone with a Disordered Parent. And what you can do, and what we'll talk about in the webinar, is by building their self-esteem and encouraging expression of their feelings, you can help them to develop resilience to overcome a negative environment. You'll learn strategies to help your children so that any emotional and psychological injuries that they may suffer don't turn into those festering sociopath magnets that affect them later on. Now, if you're watching this video on another day, not today, November 19th, don't worry, the webinar will be recorded and it will be available whenever you want to watch it on education.lovefraud.com. So, my main message is that the best thing you can do for yourself is to work on your internal healing. This may not prevent you from running into sociopaths because there are simply too many of them. As I said in last week, there's maybe 30 million adult sociopaths in the United States. But by releasing the pain of your experiences, the sociopath magnet will be gone and they'll have nothing to latch onto. So with your internal healing, everything that you want in your life becomes possible. So I'm going to take a look at what we have for lots of comments. Hang on. Let's see if there's some questions. Okay, so we have a comment from Mary Lynn. My mother is a witch. Even as an adult, she still tries her own tricks. Nope, not working anymore. Yes, back then it seemed normal, but now it just seems wrong. I'm very sorry for your experience, but I am glad that you realize that she's the problem, not you, because I imagine as you were growing up, you thought that you were the issue, or maybe even into your adult years, you thought that you were the issue because, of course, that's what sociopaths tell us. But I'm very glad to know that it's not working anymore and that you have realized that her behavior and her demands are not your fault or your responsibility. Let's see what else we have here. Oh my, I just summed up Ellie's life in 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Well, we have lots of comments here. This seems to resonate with a lot of folks. Here we go. How do I overcome agoraphobia after years of programming from abusive upbringing and relationships? Hearing every day how dangerous everything is and how I will always fail has been very damaging. Oh my. Yes, Ellie, that's definitely a difficult situation. You need a competent therapist. I would suggest that you look for a therapist who is experienced in trauma. And also keep in mind that not all therapists really understand what goes on in these situations. Some do. But our research has shown that about half of therapists do not really understand what goes on when someone is disordered, and unfortunately that could apply to talking about your parents and your childhood experience. But there are definitely therapists who can help you. I suggest that you do find a therapist, and if for any reason at all you don't feel like this person is helping you, just move on. It might take some trial and error, but eventually you can certainly come across the therapist who can help you. It might take some time to unpack that situation because the roots of it go very deep. But I do recommend that you work on it because you deserve a better life. You really should have the life that you want, and it is possible to overcome these issues. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes work, but it's worth doing it. So I do hope that you'll pursue looking for a therapist. Let's see what else we have. Okay, Martina says, how can I break my love addiction? Well, we actually did a webinar about this back in the end of September, and it's called EFT Tapping to Break Your Addiction to a Sociopath. I really recommend that you look at this because I think it'll help you a lot. Stacy Vornbrock presented the webinar, and it uses the emotional freedom techniques, the tapping where you tap in different places like this. I know it looks like voodoo, but the stuff actually works. It's great for breaking an addiction. It's great for dealing with PTSD, anxiety, and any other lots of issues actually. So I recommend that you take a look at that webinar because it certainly will help you. I mean, the first step, of course, is to get away from this person, but they have that addictive hook into you, tapping into your vulnerabilities. So getting away, no contact, and plus the EFT tapping should help you to break the addiction. Okay, let's see if we have anything else. Okay, well, that appears to be all the questions that we have, although there are quite a few comments. Once again, I'm Donna Andersen, author of lovefraud.com, and we do this Love Fraud Live program on YouTube every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So hope to see you next week. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.